Breaking headlines. Maldives shares climate change efforts with U.S. Council on Foreign Relations. Environment Minister emphasizes the need to update and strengthen the South Asia Cooperative Environment Program. And Finance Minister highlights the government's commitment to implement policies aimed at reducing expenditure and increasing revenue starting primarily in the third quarter of 2024.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hello and welcome to PSMNEWS in English with me, Mariam Shawshat. Maldives shares climate change efforts with U.S. Council on Foreign Relations. During the visit to the United States from June 24th to 27th, Foreign Minister Musa Zamir engaged with the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations to discuss the Maldives' initiatives in combating climate change.
Foreign Minister Zamir presented the Maldivian government's climate change policies to members of the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations. He highlighted President Dr. Mohamed Muiz's strong commitment to addressing climate change and shared ongoing efforts to mitigate its impacts. In addition to his engagement with the Council, Mr. Zamir met with several U.S. Congress members, including Congressman Michael McCaul and Congresswoman Young Kim, to further discuss climate change and other bilateral issues. The visit began in Washington, D.C., where Foreign Minister Zamir held talks with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Their discussions focused on strengthening Maldives' military, democracy, economy, and climate change mitigation efforts. In Washington, he also met with Samantha Power, Administrator of the United States Agency for International Development. The Foreign Minister expressed gratitude for USAID's assistance to the Maldives and explored avenues for future cooperation. Minister Zamir also took the opportunity to connect with Maldivians living in Washington. Following his engagements in Washington, the Foreign Minister arrived in New York. There he is scheduled to meet with the UN Secretary General and the UN Under-Secretary General for Economic and Social Affairs. In New York, Mr. Zamir will engage with Maldivian communities in New York and New Jersey. He is also set to meet with tour operators and travel advisors in New York to strengthen tourism ties. Mr. Zamir's visit underscores the Maldives' commitment to addressing climate change and enhancing international cooperation in this critical area.
Minister of Climate Change, Environment and Energy Tariq Ibrahim emphasizes the need to update and strengthen the South Asia Cooperative Environment Program, SACEP, the primary organization advocating for environmental issues in South Asia. He made the remarks during the closing ceremony of the 16th SACEP Governing Council meeting held in Bhutan.
Minister Tariq Ibrahim highlighted the meeting's significance in enhancing cooperation among South Asian countries to address the challenges posed by climate change. He underscored the urgency for small island nations like the Maldives to prepare and take immediate action against climate threats, including global warming, sea level rise, air and water pollution, and land erosion. Calling for member countries to engage in collaborative dialogue, Minister Tariq shared the Maldivian government's initiatives aimed at mitigating these challenges. He specifically mentioned President Dr. Mohamed Muiz's commitment to planting 5 million trees across the Maldives. Additionally, Minister Tariq urged SACEP member states to reform and strengthen the organization's regulations to better address evolving regional environmental concerns. SACEP as a regional environmental organization must adapt to meet the changing needs of member countries. It is crucial to revise and enhance its framework so that it can effectively advocate and engage on environmental issues at international forums, he stated. Established in 1987, the SACEP meetings serve as pivotal platforms for environmental discussions involving member countries and other Commonwealth agencies. This year marked the 16th convening of SACEP, highlighting its ongoing role in fostering regional cooperation on environmental sustainability.
Minister of Finance Dr. Mohammad Shafiq underscores the imperative nature of reforming state-owned enterprises SOEs, describing it as essential rather than optional. During a recent session with the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, he emphasized that both domestic and foreign financial institutions have highlighted the necessity of these reforms for the Maldives' economic progress.
Minister Shafiq pointed out that effective restructuring of SOEs is crucial to meet public expectations for improved services. He highlighted the financial challenges facing the government, stressing that without reforms, these difficulties will persist in the future. Despite originally scheduling financial reform initiatives for later in the year, the administration has prioritized these efforts since its inception. The minister reported significant progress in reducing SOE expenditures, citing savings of $162.3 million achieved through reform measures. He specifically noted improvements at entities like FENACA and Road Development Corporation, where monthly savings of $1.1 million have been realized through enhanced efficiency and management of overdue bills. Highlighting President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's commitment to SOE reform, Minister Shafiq outlined announced policies aimed at transforming state-owned entities into financially self-sustaining entities that minimize reliance on state funding. These policies encompass subsidy revisions and capital management strategies. Minister Shafiq concluded by urging parliamentary cooperation in advancing these reform efforts. Currently, 32 SOEs operate in the Maldives, with a majority operating at a financial loss surpassing their revenues with expenditures.
Minister of Finance Dr. Mohammad Shafiq highlights the government's commitment to implement policies aimed at reducing expenditure and increasing revenue, starting primarily in the third quarter this year. In a briefing to the Public Accounts Committee of the Parliament, he stressed that despite previous announcement, many of these measures were never put into practice.
The minister revealed that President Dr. Mohammad Muiz has spearheaded a policy to reduce government spending and enhance revenue generation. The reform agenda encompasses 20 key initiatives, outlining 7 direct measures to curtail spending, with additional actions planned to achieve medium-term targets. While aiming to commence these efforts by the third quarter of the year, Minister Shafiq acknowledged that previous attempts to reduce expenditures in 2022 and 2023 did not materialize as planned. He disclosed that the Cabinet has endorsed a comprehensive strategy to bolster revenue through expenditure cuts, detailing a medium-term approach to achieve financial sustainability. Minister Shafiq affirmed the administration's commitment to executing these plans effectively, seeking parliamentary support to ensure their successful implementation.
Health Protection Agency HPA reveals that Maldives has swiftly responded to a case of meningococcal disease by identifying and providing antibiotic prophylactic medicine to 46 contacts associated with the case identified.
Speaking on a program aired on PSMNEWS, HPA's Deputy Director General of Public Health Ibrahim Ashraf confirmed that contact tracing procedures have been rigorously followed to prevent further spread of the bacteria. Ashraf said the identified contacts have been administered with antibiotic prophylactic medicine as a preventive measure. He emphasized that no additional contacts are expected beyond the identified 46. Moreover, internal medicine doctor at Indira Gandhi Memorial Hospital IGMH Dr. Musa Murad highlighted that meningococcal disease typically shows severe symptoms in approximately 10 out of 100 infected individuals. He reassured that while the bacteria can persist in the body for 7 to 10 days, antibiotics and vaccines are effective in swiftly eliminating them. Dr. Murad also noted that unlike viruses, meningococcal bacteria are less likely to spread quickly and do not remain airborne for extended periods. Close contacts are at higher risk of infection. The HPA has urged individuals identified as contacts of the meningococcal disease case to strictly adhere to preventive guidelines. They have also established a special flu clinic at IGMH to assist pilgrims. Symptoms of meningococcal disease include severe cough, headache, nausea and vomiting, confusion, and distinctive red rashes or spots on the body. Anyone experiencing these symptoms is advised to seek immediate medical attention.
Credit rating agency Fitch acknowledges the government's positive steps to improve the Maldives' financial situation. Fitch has changed the Maldives' financial rating from B- to CCC+. This change is primarily due to increased constraints on external financing. However, Fitch noted that if the government implements effective debt management measures, the financial situation is expected to improve further, potentially leading to a higher financial rating. The agency also highlighted the government's efforts to diversify the economy and build a sustainable financial framework which will contribute to long-term stability. Fitch emphasized that the government's financial outlook will improve with the measures currently being implemented. The government is actively working to reduce expenditure and increase revenue. Additionally, there will be no delays in repaying debts owed by the Maldives to various creditors. Chief Executive of National Disaster Management Authority NDMA, Hisan Hussein, announces a collaborative effort with the Japanese government aimed at bolstering disaster preparedness across the Maldives.
During a session with the Parliamentary Committee on National Security Services, Hisan outlined the authority's ongoing initiatives and highlighted the challenges encountered in disaster management. The joint project with Japan, valued at $373,701, is set to procure essential disaster relief equipment by early next year. This initiative aims to equip all islands in the Maldives as well as the capital city, Male, with vital resources capable of mitigating flood-related emergencies. Specifically, water pumps will be distributed to every island, while flood suction pumps will be allocated to the Male City Council. Additionally, the project includes provisions for 40 firefighting pumps and 4 firefighting vehicles, enhancing the country's capacity to respond to fire emergencies effectively. Hisan emphasized NDMA's commitment to strengthening disaster resilience through international collaborations, highlighting past instances where the authority successfully utilized foreign aid to support disaster response efforts in the Maldives.
Statistics reveal that since assuming office in November last year, the administration of President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu has not withdrawn any funds from the Maldives Monetary Authority MMA. Former President Abdullah Yamin Abdul Gayoom, speaking at a People's National Front PNF rally on June 24th, accused the government of borrowing from the MMA, claiming that such actions amount to the equivalent of currency printing.
Yamin asserted that MMA data indicated a withdrawal of $843,956 as an advance to the government, highlighting concerns over financial practices. Advance to government refers to loans extended by the central bank to the government, utilizing the public accounts overdraft. Contrary to these claims, the monthly statement of financial position from the MMA indicates no withdrawals as advance to the government since November 2023. Specifically, the government withdrew $110.4 million in November 2023, but subsequent reports from December 2023 to May 2024 show no further withdrawals. During the period from January 2023 to November 2023, MMA disbursed $1.2 billion to the government. However, following the change in administration, no funds have been accessed under the advance to government category since December 2023, as confirmed by the MMA's financial reports. Moreover, the MMA's investment activities have shown a shift. As of December last year, the central bank had invested $941.3 million in treasury bills, with $3.9 million in T-bills. By May this year, T-bill investments dropped to $3.8 million and treasury bonds declined to $934.8 million from $941.3 million. These adjustments indicate a strategic reduction in government reliance on T-bills and treasury bonds to manage debt and deficits. T-bills are discounted government securities issued to finance budget shortfalls, promising repayment at face value upon maturity, thereby benefiting investors.
Major U.S. stock indexes closed with modest gains after a choppy trading session, with investors holding their cards close to the vest ahead of a presidential debate and an inflation report closely watched by Federal Reserve policymakers.
Leading chip maker Nvidia fell, with its losses waning on the Philadelphia SE Semiconductor Index, yet megacaps such as Apple, Amazon.com and Tesla posted gains. Several economic data releases are due this week, leading to Friday's release of the Personal Consumption Expenditures (PCE) Price Index, the Federal Reserve's preferred inflation gauge used to decide on the path of monetary policy. The Fed has been projecting only one interest rate cut this year, in December. But investors see a 56.3% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut in September and about 2 cuts by the year end. LSEG's interest rates probabilities up short. The S&P 500 gained 8.60 points or 0.16% to end at 5,477.90 points, while the Nasdaq Composite gained 87.50 points or 0.49% to 17,805.16. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 15.64 points or 0.04% to 39,127.8.
European Union EU leaders are to agree on the strategic course for the EU and on the people to run its institutions for the next 5 years, with special focus on helping Ukraine fend off Russia and bolstering the EU's own defenses.
A draft strategic agenda seen by Reuters calls for boosting EU competitiveness to better withstand economic pressure from China and the United States, and for preparing the bloc for enlargement that would include Ukraine, Moldova and the Western Balkans. The agenda is to help the next head of the European Commission, due to start in October, prepare a work program. The 27 national leaders are expected to nominate Ursula von der Leyen of Germany for a second term as Commission President. As part of a package agreed by 3 pro-EU centrist political groups, Portuguese ex-Premier Antonio Costa would preside over the European Council of EU leaders, and Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas would be foreign policy chief. The 3 groups, the centre-right, centre-left and liberals, have the necessary majority to get the package approved at the summit. But there could still be some resistance, with Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban critical of the deal.
A passenger train derails in Russia's far northern Komi region, overturning carriages next to the railbed and injuring 20 passengers, the region's governor says.
The investigative committee, Russia's most important investigating authority, was quoted as saying by Russian news agencies that no deaths had occurred in the incident outside the town of Inter. 9 carriages left the rails. Komi Regional Governor Vladimir Uber, writing on the Telegram messaging app, said 20 people were injured, 3 of whom were in serious condition. A total of 215 passengers had been aboard. News agencies quoted police and emergency services as saying injuries included fractures, bruises, cuts and head trauma. The train was on its way from Vorkuta, a mining town just above the Arctic Circle, to the Black Sea port of Novorossiysk in southern Russia.
Thousands of Israeli protesters rally in Tel Aviv, calling on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to resign and for the government to accept a ceasefire deal to release hostages held by Hamas in Gaza.
Netanyahu's government has insisted that it will not stop the war until Hamas is destroyed and all the hostages are returned, but intensive efforts are underway to secure a halt to the fighting that might lead to a full ceasefire. However, Netanyahu faces pressure from nationalist religious parties in his coalition to refuse a deal with Hamas and go ahead with the long-promised offensive against the southern Gaza city of Rafah. Although surveys show solid support among the Israeli public for continuing the war against Hamas, the protests underscore the division in Israeli society that have reopened following a period of unity at the start of the war. Despite growing international pressure for a ceasefire, an agreement to hold the fighting still appears distant more than 8 months since the start of the war in October, with the near-daily cross-border exchanges of fire with Hezbollah militia fighters in southern Lebanon intensifying.
Georgia stages the biggest upset in Euro history with a 2-0 win over Portugal to stride into the knockout phase of their first major tournament, thanks to an early goal strike and a Georgia's penalty.
The win, albeit against a largely second-steering Portugal, who had already made it into the next round, represented the greatest result for Georgia since the country gained independence from the Soviet Union in 1991. Played out in front of tens of thousands of Russia's Georgia fans, it was also the biggest shock based on rankings, which put the team rated 74th in the world against Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal, who were ranked 6th and were Euro champions in 2016. Having come a disappointing 4th in their qualifiers, Georgia had to take a circuitous road to Germany, first by winning their group in the less glamorous Euro Nations tournament and then defeating Greece in a playoff. But there was nothing undeserved about the way coach Willy Sagnol, the former Bayern Munich and France defender, and his side claimed a third-place finish in the tournament's Group F and set up a last 16 meeting with three-time Euro winners Spain.
Chinese state broadcaster CCTV reports 2 giant pandas from China started their journey to a zoo in the United States.
The pandas, a 3-year-old female named Xin Bao and a 4-year-old male named Yun Xuan, are traveling from Bifengia Panda Base in China's southwestern Sichuan province to San Diego, California. They are flying from Chengdu's Shuangliu International Airport. Chinese panda experts will spend 3 months to help the pair fit into their new habitat once they have settled down in San Diego Zoo. China will be sending another 2 young giant pandas to the US, the National Zoo in Washington, D.C., as Beijing and Washington put ties on a steadier footing since relations hit historic lows last year.
Well, that's all we have for you right now. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more news updates. Have a good day. Goodbye.
Broadcast sponsors of PSM coverage. Brought to you by STO.